In the second video, I'd like to deploy this application on Azure. Azure is in the corporate world possibly the most popular environment, cloud environment, maybe together with Amazon, but definitely it's terribly important to have experience in how to deploy application on Azure. That's a key important part of every application developer who is interested in having experience in Azure. And then why Azure? Because it's very popular in corporate environments. So that's why I picked Azure Static Web Apps, which is still in preview mode. Actually, this is a free functionality service from Azure. Of course, when you want to experiment with Azure, you must have a credit card, because when you open your subscription, a credit card is requested. And I've been using Azure for my personal projects too, and then it's really an excellent service. So that's why I highly recommend. Don't be intimidated because it requires your credit card. Anyhow, so the first step is actually the way it works. It works through or via GitHub. That is, the whole build process is done on the Azure environment or in GitHub. So we don't need actually the distribution folder here. So let me just delete it for this project just to demonstrate. So we have all the source code, and then I'm committing the mod. Actually, this is the initial project. Initial setup. Okay, and I upload it. So all my system is uploaded on GitHub. So that's where we have our source code, and this is what I'm expecting to be used for this Azure Static Web Apps. This is an extension, very easy to locate, Azure Static Web Apps, and then just install it, disable it. And if you have the Azure account, and it's very easy to use. I've already had an application running as a static web apps. Let's do this project again as static web app. It asks enter the name for the new static web app. Yes, Xenia 25, the same name as my project. That's completely fine. Just enter, and then it asks the select a location for newer resources. I'm located in Europe, then I just selected this, and then this is a custom project. And in this custom project, enter the location of your application code. For example, represent the root of your application, while up present dictionary code up. So in our case, this is the root folder. And then build. Actually, this is not enter the location of your build. No, this is not a build. Keep in mind that the default folder is dist for our project. So that's very important. And that's all. Successfully created new static web app. Xenia action is building and deploying your app. It will be available once the deployment completes. And view, edit workflow, open actions in GitHub. Excuse me. Of course, we can monitor our application action is a continuous integration and continuous deployment. So what you can see here that continuous integration. So setup job succeeded, and then build Azure static web apps deploy started a few seconds ago. While it is being deployed, let's just come back to the and add Azure Stack Overflow profile. So this has been done, and here are the actions. So we have a workflow defined for our application that is it is still running and in progress. 2 minutes ago it was started. When I click, this is where it is progressing. And this monitoring is also available here, and what you can see that succeeded the build process, post run and complete job, and successfully build the deployed Xenia commit and push. Browse the website, just open the website, and here you go, our application. It will have a fancy name, Red River and the number, Azure staticapps.net. This is the URL, but remember that we will have also an HTTPS, so that's free and easy to deploy on the application. And yes, and here is our hello world message. So the reason I wanted to go this direction, because this continuous development, continuous deployment and continuous integration is a very fancy way of working with cloud-based application, and therefore when we manage to start a project right away, this way we can monitor our development in a real, let's say a real world situation environment right away deployed. And it was only, as you have seen, only a couple of minutes and a couple of clicks of deployment. And what is terribly important to note is that you don't have to build your application on your side, because this build process is part of this deployment. It is done on the GitHub or Microsoft project, actually on the GitHub side, and then it will be deployed from this dist destination. So that's why in your project it's very important to understand and know and be sure that the output is the dist folder in your project. Otherwise it won't work. And what of course is happening here, so the next time, why it is interesting, the next time when I modify or change something here and I commit my application, this process starts again, and then the second commit will be deployed too. So that's why it is called continuous integration. So every time you commit against your GitHub repo. Of course, when you commit locally, it doesn't trigger the deployment, but when you push the commits over to the GitHub repo, because it has this workflow and these actions and workflow on the GitHub, it will push the results over to this Azure static web apps.